Hello, my name is Maureen Monty, and I build winning teams. At the core of my work is a program and process called Destination Unstoppable, and that helps teams unite to overcome obstacles and achieve big goals, and that often includes winning. So, as part of the process, I help individuals and teams reach their full potential. And as part of that process, I like to interview really talented people that are on their own journey towards reaching Destination Unstoppable. Today's guest is our friend Stephanie Hasken, and Stephanie is a girls basketball and soccer coach in Iowa. So let's get started. Stephanie,
Hi there.
Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. So tell us about your history as a player and a coach.
As a player, I've been a multi-sport athlete ever since I've been growing up. My passions are soccer and basketball, but throughout high school, I ran cross country and tried a little of volleyball, but found my other passions. And then went collegiately to play soccer for 4 years and basketball for 2 years. And then became a strength and conditioning coach for my final 2 years, my junior and senior year. And then I came out of college as a PE K through 12 teacher, and I taught in a small school in Iowa, health and PE, and then was the assistant varsity for both basketball and soccer. And then came to Linn-Mar High School here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And again, just high school PE and health, and then coach basketball and soccer here too.
At the school? Okay, so you both teach there and coach there.
Correct.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you recently learned about my Destination Unstoppable program.
Correct.
And what was as part of that, we assess our strengths because everything begins with knowing our internal motor, understanding our internal motor. What did you think? What was your first reaction to your results?
My first reaction to the results were, wow, like how spot on these characteristics and these strengths are for me. I was reading, the more in-depth description of each strength, and I was supposed to highlight, you asked us to highlight, what really stuck out to us. And like the whole paragraph is practically highlighted just because everything I'm like, yeah, that's me. Yep. Okay. Whether it was good or whether it was bad or could be seen as a negative, it was very spot on for me. So I was very, intrigued as to how this test could determine, and know so much about me within a 20-minute test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
177 questions.
Yeah.
So for those that are our viewers, I'm going to share the screen and they will see your strengths,
Okay.
I believe. Maybe I didn't do that right. So let's put my glasses on and look. There we go. So those of you that haven't met Stephanie, these are her top 5 strengths. So your number 1 strength was woo, right? Yeah. Which I
Absolutely.
say. So tell me, I say you've never met a stranger, you're socially gifted. How do you define woo?
So my woo is, very much never met a stranger. In the description that I pulled out, it says, loves the challenge of meeting new people, quickly establishes easy rapport with individuals by telling jokes, smiling, introducing yourself, or giving a compliment. I recognize that, laughter is a universal language, which completely, if you know me, and I think if anyone would ask, I am the person that people come to for a joke or for just a storytelling. I like walking into a room, and even if I don't know anyone, like it doesn't take very long for me to, just non-instinctively go introduce myself or start talking to somebody the other part of being woo was meeting people and enjoying the one-on-one time with people and really loving to get to know them and what makes them tick and what makes them unique, and just really trying to take their uniqueness and their strengths and using that to the best of their ability.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
I hear that you are, as I say, socially gifted, and then communication, the third one is verbally gifted.
Yeah.
I hear both of those in this conversation. I've done previous interviews where people answer a one-liner question with a one-liner answer, right?
Oh,
And
no. I
no,
could
not
talk
you.
to a wall.
Yeah. The
It's
wall would probably talk back.
well, and one of my third one down is communication, and just being able to get my words across and my ideas across. And that's probably definitely one of my strengths, just as a teacher and as a coach. I am who I am, and I teach what I am, and my experiences and what I know, facts and stories and different things like that. So
Yeah. And both of those are very encouraging strengths, right? If there's a shy person in the room, you would have no trouble going up and speak to them.
correct.
Being able to, just engage in conversation. Both of those are very positive in terms of how the impact they have on other people. And they do galvanize people to do things that they wouldn't have done otherwise. That's why I label those. That's why I color those strengths red, because there's a lot of energy to them. You have a lot of energy. There's no question.
Yep.
And they do motivate people to do things they wouldn't have done otherwise. And think about that as a role as a coach, of course, right? That's a
Right.
really powerful part of your program.
Very much.
I'm going to come back to harmony last, because it's a different one, right? And
Okay.
I did mention to you when I met you in person that the red strengths are the least common strengths in the global population. So therefore, you're more likely to be misunderstood. Only 15% of the strengths of the nearly 17 million people that have taken it are in their top 5 have red strengths. So that it is not as common to have these. And you have 4 of them, right? So we'll talk about that impact as well. The other ones that might give you a little more trouble with the rest of the universe, Activator is a sense of impatience, right?
Absolutely.
So tell me about that and how that manifests itself for you.
So as I read Activator, and we were going through that activity when we were through the training and stuff, we were talking about, what do you love and what's your crazy? And Activator is definitely something that drives people crazy. And it sometimes drives me crazy because, we are often impatient because I can't tell you how many times, like, I'll just act on something and I'll be like, yeah, let's do it, And then afterwards, I second guess myself, or I think, oh, well, maybe I should have done it a different way,
Yeah.
Whether it's on the field or on the court or in teaching and, just in life in general, just things that I decide to do, actions that I decide to take, I all of a sudden am like, oh, well, maybe this would have been another option, or maybe I could have done it this way, whereas some of the learners, the other coaches that I have, they were learners and they were like searchers and, very much organization. Whereas I'm like, nope, let's just do it. It's just kind of my attitude of what you see is what you get. And let's just take charge. Let's go. Yeah. And reading through this description, it says you generate enthusiasm so people become eager as you to transform an idea into something tangible. And so that's exactly like what I do as a coach, so I was captain of my soccer team all 4 years. And so
wow, all 4 years. So as a freshman you were captain?
Yep.
Holy
well, because I was goalkeeper.
Oh.
And the reason I like the goalkeeper in a soccer position is because the goalkeeper is the communicator. They're the talker. They are the last line of defense, if you can say that. And so they have a crucial role. And so I can see the field. And so I tell my teammates where to go and what to do and just kind of guide them. And so as a captain and as a leader of the team, I became very eager, and I wanted my teammates to become very eager as well as, hey, this is our goal. Let's get to this.
Yeah.
Whether it's, this is our game that we really want to win, or towards the end of the season, championship or something, So
gosh, what a good combination of talents to have for that role, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And you could be a great goalkeeper and not have those, but you put what you have to great use, right? To really productive use.
And I find as a coach now, my goalkeepers, when I try and coach them, I get kind of drawn sometimes because I've had great goalkeepers that aren't the activators. They're not the good communicators. They're great goalkeepers, but they're not the loud voice. They're not the, just the strength that you want to stand behind, in the, between the pipes back there. So,
and are you okay with the fact that they're not wired just like you?
Absolutely. I understand that that's not their strength. And so that's not something that they're comfortable with. I do try and push them to influence them to be more talkative and to be more of that leadership role back there. But I also know that, that's not everybody's strength. And
right.
So, then the harmony in me wants to figure out, okay, well, what is their strength? And let's use that and go with that. And so,
yeah, so let's touch upon harmony. That's a great point. I wondered how your human glue side of it came out. Any remarks from your report? And for those that are watching this for the first time and have not taken the StrengthsFinder assessment, you get a customized report. So if you and I both had harmony, it doesn't read the same, right? So, because harmony plus communication is different than harmony and I have ideation. So it's like peanut butter and jelly doesn't taste the same as peanut butter and chocolate, right? So how does your harmony manifest itself? What jumps out to you from your report?
Again, a lot of it was highlighted, but one of the first sentences is, because of your strengths, you approach work and life in a very practical manner. And just like, I just am very realistic. There's very little room for fanciful thinking, it says. You inspire cooperation in others when you admit you are unsure of what to do and ask for advice. I'm a very straightforward person. Again, what you see is what you get. You're happy to do exactly what is assigned to you as long as you sense that you are not being asked to carry more than your fair share of the workload. I found that more to be realistic actually within these last couple of weeks as school's starting. I found that, it really has pinpointed. One of my coworkers just expects everything done for him, and the copies are made and everything is just handed to him. And, I've been working, and another coworker of mine have been working, to prepare for the school year. And all of a sudden he just comes in and is like, hey, what are you going to do today? And hey, do we have that stuff copied off? Like, has this been done? And it's like, well, yeah, it's been done because we've prepared it. But I can see where that can drive like me crazy, because all of a sudden it's not being separated and shared. And so now I'm like, yeah, well, this isn't fair, So I can definitely see that.
Do you see a future where you're going to have that chat with this person?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the activator in me is like, enough's enough. You got to do your work. And even though I have my foot on the gas pedal, I also have to be like, the harmony in me is like, this is an equal, we're doing all of your work, and what are you doing, or what are you doing to help us? Like, there's got to be some give and take here.
Right. So back to that fairness idea and the practicalness of consensus.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
Good. How about your significance? Let me see if I can show that again. How does that speak to you?
So I think my significance definitely shows more in like my teaching world, as well as coaching. I mean, coaching is teaching and teaching is coaching. It says invest energy, helping individuals value their accomplishments.
Okay.
I really do want each student and each player that I work with to know their strengths and to really like grab onto that and have pride in what their accomplishments are and what their strengths are. I think that's one of the biggest things of like how we find our identity, and not in what we do, but who we are. And so I think that's one of the big parts of significance. It may not to me myself be recognized, but for them to be recognized and their strengths be recognized.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, some of this was like, you want to be recognized and you gravitate towards roles that are important. I do gravitate towards roles that are very important, like the leadership and, taking charge and being a teacher and being a coach and being in those head roles. But I don't necessarily always want that recognition back on me. Like it's more about, if I'm working with a student, hey, what's your strengths? How can we bring that, manifest that so that you can see it and that you can find value in that.
Wonderful. Yeah. And there's kind of and I have a question associated with that in a second. There's an element of maturity with that moving. So sometimes teams have pronoun trouble, right? I versus me versus we versus you versus, right?
Yes.
And so you're clearly on the we part of significance. And the beauty of significance is that because it can grab the spotlight, is you're grabbing it and shining it on the team, right? You're the mirror reflecting it back on them. And that's a really productive use of that talent, right? So a question I have for you is, when you were younger, did you see yourself having these strengths? When was the first time you were aware that you were kind of a galvanizing person? And was there a time when it was the me, not the we, when you were looking at some of this?
I just, mainly with the woo, I found that was probably one of the strongest. Obviously it was my number one. And this is like, again, this is where that, significance, like I also want to try to be humble, but this is talking about me. So,
well, yeah, I asked you. We're good.
So in high school, I was in a huge high school. It was the second largest. I think we had over 2,200 students in our school.
Wow.
I had a graduating class of almost 600. It was a huge school, and small things aside, but I was the homecoming queen, and it was, we didn't have prom queen or prom king, but I was the homecoming queen. And literally, there are so many times where I go home and I'll know people's faces, I'll know their names, and I'll talk to them, or I'll say something hi to them, and they're like, "Whoa, you remember me? You remember that happening?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how's it going?" And my friends will come to me to ask who this person was, or I found myself walking down the halls and knowing a lot, majority of the people, at least by name, maybe not by friendship, but by name. And that's what I love being here as a school teacher. I get to do that. And there's a lot of teachers that walk down the hallways that don't know, besides the kids that may be in their class right now, they don't know a lot of kids. And I really take pride in being that kid's in the middle of the hallway and says hi to as many kids as I can in the morning. And if I don't or if I see something going on, talking to that kid or my athlete or whatever, and saying, "Hey, what's going on? Tell me about your life. Tell me who you are," different things like that. And so, definitely woo was definitely one of the ones that stuck out to me. And just, I was reading, if it was a dominant one, the networking part of being a woo, and how we don't like to burn bridges, and we like to network, and we like to network people too. And so introducing my friends to other friends that are now, forming friendships and bonds and other types of relationships. And I'm like, that's awesome that you guys are being friends now. And just forming those relationships and stuff, whether, our church group is huge, and just connecting people.
So you've been doing this for a long time, in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I guess naturally, I just don't even as I think about it. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I may do this and I may do that, but otherwise I just would have done it and wouldn't have thought twice about it. And it's just who I am.
Right. And now we know how to describe it and why a little bit more, right? And that's the advantage of it.
Correct.
So if tomorrow you were to switch careers entirely and go interview somewhere else, you have a lot of things to talk about with confidence and clarity as to what your value proposition is like, right?
Absolutely. I was just talking to a friend. She was interviewing for a job last week, and I was like, so she was like, "Hey, can you help me go through interview questions, because I've only been through 2 interviews and I've gotten the job both times. And so she's like, well, you know, what do you do? What do you know? And I was just like, well, I don't know. I just say who I am and tell them what I'm, I don't know. I just start talking, and apparently they like it. But yeah, so I was talking to her and I was like, well, you know, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And because that's always a common question.
Sure.
Like, how do you handle a certain situation, and what's your strengths? What are your, you know, weaknesses and stuff? And so I talked to her about this, and, you know, even my strengths are some things that I can go into length about.
Right.
I didn't quite go into the, you know, the extra answers, you know, the full 80 some characteristics or whatever.
The StrengthsFinder measures your top 5 of 34 or all 34. So it measures it.
Okay.
And you can either unlock your whole 34 or you have your top 5, and we have your top 5. Yeah.
You're right. And so I didn't unlock all the 34,
okay.
which I think would be cool to see, like, what are my weaknesses? So just so I could be aware, and so that I could, you know, kind of work on those as well, or seek out people who are my weaknesses so that I can be like, hey, you guys want to work together on this? So, you know,
it's another point of view that will never come naturally to you. And to have that
absolutely.
is always very helpful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cause sometimes I struggle, cause I'm like, that's not how I think, but I still got to respect this is how you think, and this is what your strength is. And so how can we work on this together?
Yeah,
because I would love, you know, I like learning from other people. And again, part of my woo is seeing other people's strengths and seeing what it just comes so naturally to them, even though it's not natural to me. Watching them in their state, I'm like, let's go. And celebrating that and loving them for, being the thinkers and the learners and, you know, the relationship type of people. I love counselors. I was just talking to a counselor today, and just loving her for her patience and her empathy towards her students, and all this, where
so important.
Some of mine, I'm like, let's listen, but then I'm ready for something else. And she's just like, let's just sit down and listen. And I'm like,
kind of done with the listening thing. You're not,
right. Like, let's go on. Like, let's do something else. So,
well, we need them all, as you know, we need all the strengths.
Absolutely.
So, we talked a little bit when we met in person about the fact that being a female with all this rock star horsepower, the red strengths have a lot of horsepower with them. Tell me, was there a time when you've been misunderstood for having all this rock star horsepower? And I'll share your strengths again.
I would say one of the toughest, it was more challenging, was in college. I had to make the decision of, I got injured, and so during middle of basketball season, and so I could have stayed in a role that really didn't fit me, or I could have gone to another route of being a strength and conditioning coach. And again, that leadership role, that role of importance, you know, becoming a coach and finding out more about me, which I chose to do and I love to do. But I was the first female in the strength and conditioning program as a student coach. And so definitely a challenging time, because here I am. I was a sophomore going into my junior year. So a sophomore female athlete standing next to the rack or in the weight room next to these senior football players that were 2 times bigger than me, you know, and people that I truly respected and looked up to, but I'm supposed to yell at them and tell them, like, hey, you need to be doing this better, and, you know, get lower on your squats, and like correcting them and coaching them up. That was a huge, like, pill to swallow, and just the pride of, okay, like, strap up your boots, here we go. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or if you're a guy, if you're confident, if you know what you're talking about, if you're, you know, just ready to go, then they'll respect you and stuff like that.
That's an awesome example. How did they respond in the first time you said, listen, I don't think you're doing that as hard as you might, or whatever, however you would have said it? How did they respond?
I mean, I was sweating more than I think is a healthy amount, but but you know, it is, it was one of those things where my coach took me aside and was like, this is going to be a big test for you. You know, you can do this. I have faith in you, and I completely think you can do this. So go out there, be confident, and coach them up. And I was like, okay, you know, like, let's do this. And so I did. I went out there, and yeah, as much as I was sweating and nervous, you kind of have to put that face on of no one's going to know that. I'm going to be that confident female. I'm going to be that confident role in this position of this is my job. This is the role that I've been given, and let's take it and let's run with it.
Wow.
And so,
in that moment, do you think there was which of you of like woo, or was it significance or activator? What do you think was leading you through that of your top 5 strengths, or was it harmony?
Could have been harmony. Could have been significance. Again, I kind of like selfishly, I mean, yes, I did like the role of, so now looking hindsight, I've been called by several, my strength and conditioning coach who first put me in, Coach Johnson, who put me in that role when I was a sophomore. He's called me several times since then to be kind of a person that the females now who are going through the strength and conditioning program, they can kind of ask me questions and experiences and different things like that. And just a person that they can talk to who's been through it and who, you know, who's been out of college for 5 years now and is still kind of playing that role.
Great. So you're mentoring
so,
now.
Yeah.
Really mentoring those people through the same journey. Yeah.
Certain situations. Yeah. So I would think that's where that significance part really comes out. But yeah, I mean, I don't know which one necessarily stands out. I think the woo definitely does.
Well, you certainly could charm them into doing it, if nothing else, right? I mean, you
absolutely.
And so how could they say no, right? Because people that have woo, it's hard to say no to people who have woo. So I can totally see.
And that's what I find in the classroom just so easy, because I'm like, hey, you know, let's talk about it. And yeah, and so I don't know, things just happen, and it's just, I don't know. People are like, how do you make things do this and all this night? I'm like, I don't know. It just happens. People like to do it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you do it well and naturally, and that's the best, because you can't fake confidence, right? It's wonderful that you had the resources you have and the experiences you'd had to help you with that, right? So it's a combination of many things. So as you
I've
look
been blessed with great coaches and great teammates and just great people that have, I mean, they've blessed me with these opportunities to be put in these situations to let these strengths shine. And I think that that's truly a, you know, just a blessing that all of these strengths have came out because, you know, I've been put in certain situations where I've put myself in those situations that let these strengths truly shine.
Wonderful. Well, it's such a great story, and you're so young, and to have such a handle on what you do well, right, is wonderful. It's very impressive.
Yeah, it's awesome to see it on paper, because you know, I think I know what my strengths are, but to see it on paper and to see it so spot on, that's what's going to drive me into my next career or whatever, and or interview and say, hey, are my strengths, and this is how I can be a successful teacher or coach based on these.
That really leads me to my I think it's my final question, other than if you have any words of wisdom, which we'll ask last. What does Destination Unstoppable look like for you next, right? You're doing really well. As you talk about what the future might hold, what do you see as your a specific goal or outcome for you in the future that you'd feel really good about achieving?
I think for me, I would really like to, again, this may be the harmony in me or the, you know, part of the woo in me, but I would like to really understand my other coaches and what are their strengths, how do their strengths come about, and how does it happen so naturally to them? And also so how can we work together now? Yeah. Because the 3 coaches that we went to for the activity or for the day, none of us had the same strengths. And so it's like, okay, so now we have 3 totally different eggs put in one basket. How do we coach together? How can we pull each other's strengths at different points in times and become a successful squad and a team of staff members to get our team, to get our athletes focused and successful, towards a common goal. So I think that's probably my biggest thing that I would like to do next is to understand their strengths and really how can we use those strengths when you are weak, I am strong, and when I'm strong, you're weak. And so how can we blend those together now to be a successful coaching staff?
That is it. And frankly, you make an absolutely magnificent point, and that is knowing the strengths is not enough, right? Knowing them is the beginning point, but the dialogue you can have now, the richness of the conversation about who does what well, what role should you have as part of this coaching team that suits you best, and what should I do that suits me best? And it's all aligned towards a common view of success, which really is something, again, part of the dialogue. You guys all agree on what success looks like to this team and how you behave to get there. So you've got plenty of stuff to work with. And the back of my book does have that series of steps you guys can follow on your own. Did you get a copy of my book? I can't remember.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I have a copy.
Super. Then, go to the back of the book, do that adventure together, because it'll be really powerful. And it's about the dialogue about the strengths, not so much the results themselves. It's a dialogue you guys can now have as a result of knowing this, and possibly even doing it with your team down the road. So
yeah, that would be great.
Oh my goodness, that'd be the best. I'd love to see what your team's results are.
Well, and it'd be cool just to, how can we better understand each other, so that when stuff happens during games, during practices, okay, well now I can see that, coach does this because this is how he's wired.
Right.
Whereas when my activator just goes off and I start doing a drill, or if I start talking to the girls and we start doing something, he can be more understanding now of like, that's just who she is. That's, that's what's going to go on. And understanding, why this is happening, and why another coach is, well, let's think about this. What's the best play that we can run? What's the best defense that we can have? Instead of and he can be the strength in that, whereas I'm like, let's just go down the court, with no purpose in mind, but let's just do it.
But I like the action.
I like the action. I love that everyone's having fun and we're still doing it. We're doing what we love, and
we need it all, right? We need all of that to happen for the team to be successful. And that's the joy of this journey that you're on, right?
Absolutely.
So last question, any parting words of wisdom for people that are discovering their strengths, either students or athletes or coaches or people in the workplace?
I don't know. I think obviously I encourage everyone to take this StrengthsFinder's quiz and test, because you do, like I said, it's, who you are. Hopefully you know who you are, but this gives you words and actions that are the reasons why you are who you are. Yep. And it really pinpoints and helps you to determine why you do the things you do, and what makes you kind of tick, and what your identity is, and what your strengths are. And then, I loved going through this and being amazed as to how spot on these things were and these descriptions were of me.
Wonderful. Well, you sure got a lot of wonderful talents, and they're manifesting themselves in great ways. And it's thrilling for me to watch you head towards, I used to call this journey becoming who you are, becoming fully who you are, right? And reaching that full potential. I want to stop and say thank you to our friend Stephanie and coach Stephanie Hasken for this marvelous opportunity to help us understand how individuals and teams can reach their full potential. And so until next time, everybody listening, just go out there and be unstoppable. See you soon.